The age-old question, do I need to go to film school in order to have a career? Now, we've all been raised with the idea that in order to get where you want to go in your filmmaking journey, you have to get a degree at college first. But has that changed in recent years? I'm going to break down the pros and cons so you can make the decision that best works for you in your filmmaking journey. Hello everyone, welcome back to Faith, Family, and Film. I'm so excited to get into this topic with you because I feel like it's a question that a lot of us are going to ask ourselves at one point or another, especially if you're right now in middle school or high school and starting to think about what is the next step in my career as a filmmaker or as a video content creator. Now, in order to frame the discussion correctly about where I'm going to go with this, I need to give you kind of like just a setup of where I'm coming from. So I originally am self-taught. Like I have my own at-home editing software. I just started playing with my dad's video camera back when I was a teenager, and I messed with that all throughout high school, and I just kind of learned as I went. So I came into school originally self-taught to a certain degree. Once I graduated high school, I did go to college and I double majored in English and business management, and then I went and got my associate's degree at a film college. A few years later, I actually then went and worked for that film college for 10 years, both as their media content creator and then also teaching a few classes every couple semesters. So I'm coming at this from being self-taught, from going to film school, and then at teaching from a film school perspective. And I'm hoping that allows me to kind of give this unique take on whether or not film school is the best place for you as you decide what you're going to do in the next step of starting your career. So let's get into it. Okay, so I think we have to frame this question with a more important question. I think it's the foundational question that you have to ask yourself before you decide whether or not school is the best place for you. And that's, where do you want to go in the overall entertainment industry? Because there's so many forms of entertainment now, and going to college for it might not necessarily be the right path for you. There's filmmaking itself, making films, making feature-length films. There's TV. There's commercials, music videos, there's online marketing, there's video content for social media. Now, there's podcasting, there's app creation. So many different ways of entertaining audiences and telling a compelling story. And I would make the case that film school is not necessary for all of them. Now, of course, I would think the question you would be asking is, well then, which ones should I go to school for? Well again, you need to first answer that first question for yourself. What arena do you want to go into? If you don't know, that's fine. Might mean that film school is the right choice for you. Simply to start answering some of those questions, start finding what areas of media creation you like the most. One thing I will say is that if you are looking to get into the independent film space where you want to maybe be the owner of your own production studio, or if you really want to then either go out to Los Angeles, Hollywood, or you want to go down to one of the hot spots of production where all the major studios have, large offices and studios set up there, like right now it's Atlanta, Georgia, and there's a lot happening in Vancouver and Toronto. If you want to end up in that system, or even just to make your way up the independent space, I would say film school would be a valuable place for you to go. Mostly because it's going to give you practice about the business of the industry. And that's a truth that's probably going to shock some of you pure creatives out there. Yes, it's a business. And at the end of the day, the business people are going to have the final word about what gets investment money, what gets made, what IP gets bought, what original story gets greenlit, what actually makes it to air. It's all a business decision these days. So understanding how the business side of the industry thinks, understanding their lingo, how to communicate with them effectively, how to communicate a business plan, a pitch. These are valuable things that you can learn at film school. Learning how to put together a pitch deck, how to put together an accurate budget, how to think beyond just the making of the film, but how do we monetize it? How do we take the end goal and work backwards so an investor can understand if I put my money in here, here's the return I'm going to be able to get. These are all valuable terms and concepts that film school can help you learn and to master before you actually head out into the world and start asking people to take you seriously as a professional. So that would be one of the points I would say, is that film school is very valuable if you want to rise up in the ranks to become a decision maker. Or if you want to be in control of your own projects, you're going to have to be able to plot yourself through the business elements in order to be able to negotiate deals and contracts, how to be able to produce a film from start to finish. And that means from conceptualizing it all the way to releasing it, which is going to involve contracts, talking to acquisition reps from different platforms. They all are business people. So in order to be able to understand how to converse with these people, how to make the deal, that's important. And there are some great online courses that you can take to kind of refine that. Like there's different websites out there that do that, or even YouTube has some great channels that talk about this side of it. But being able to put it into practice with knowledgeable instructors that can then give you instantaneous feedback, help you refine those skills, I think that's a very valuable thing. And I know for myself, I benefited greatly from getting feedback from my instructors about how to communicate, how to present myself. Because let's face it, a lot of us as creators, we're not exactly, bursting with all this extrovert energy, and we don't necessarily always want to just talk to, 20 people in a day, or go into a meeting and have everyone looking at us and say, hey, you have an idea? Pitch it to us. Go. Not exactly a situation that we're all exactly comfortable with. So having that time in film school with your peers and your teachers to polish those skills, to get more comfortable, I think that's a very big vote for film school. Another reason why I would suggest school is if you've just gotten that creative itch and you don't know necessarily what aspect of the industry you want to go, what genre, what path, then film school is a good place for you. Why? Because film school allows you to explore, to try new things, and to fail at some of those things. Because failing at some of those things is going to allow you to find out what you have a natural gifting for, a natural passion for. And as I've said in other videos, there will be jobs that you will maybe have to do along the way that you're going to hate, but at least you could say you know how to do it. There's countless things that I know how to do, but I hate doing it. If I could avoid doing it, I'm going to, but I still have that skill set in my toolkit in case I need to pull it out in order to get a job. And that's an important thing. And the other great thing with film school is you're doing it usually with a bunch of classmates that have the same goals as you do in some shape or form. And those relationships are vital because that's the start of your network. As you guys go through this together, there is a bond that is forged going through the trials of film school, because being on set with each other, that's going to test you. There's going to be something, probably multiple somethings that go wrong, and overcoming those challenges together, that's going to bond you to your fellow students. And again, going to be the start of your network, as well as your teachers who are probably working professionals or have been working professionals, and they're going to be part of your network too. I can tell you right now, I have multiple former instructors that I still connect with to get input on my scripts. I rent cameras and lenses and other miscellaneous equipment that I personally don't own from one of my former instructors who owns a rental facility in the area. And he's awesome. I'll get me exactly what I need, and also still giving me input on how to make my project better. And I still work with a handful of my classmates and other alumni from the college that I graduated from. We're spread out pretty far and wide, but there are still a handful that I trust on my sets, that I know are going to bring their A game to a project. And having those people on speed dial to call up in case of emergency, that's an awesome thing to have. So film school, if you're just new to this, I would definitely encourage you to check it out. Try one of the local programs. And honestly, you might want to look into if they have anything in terms of like camps, because a lot of film programs at colleges, they usually will have like a high school camp or it's like a week long, or maybe it's like a weekend thing where you can go out on their student set and see What are they making? What's the vibe? What's the energy on the sets? And you can ask current students and instructors, what's it like here? What am I going to learn here? That's a great asset for you if you're not sure which way you want to go. Okay, so you've heard me talking about the positives of film school. Now we're going to present the other side of it. Told you I would. There are some things. And probably the number one complaint you're going to hear from pretty much every YouTube channel out there is film school does take time and it does cost money. That is an unavoidable fact. I'm not even going to pretend like it's not a thing or you can just, wish it away. Film school is going to take time and money. And that's time you could be used in other ways. What are some of those other ways? Well, if you happen to have some scholarship money, or if you're very fortunate where you maybe have family helping pay for college or willing to set aside a certain amount of money to give you to use for your schooling, or if you've been working your own job and you've been saving up yourself for whatever comes next, that money can be used to invest in yourself. What do I mean by that? You can invest in creating your own company, forming your own LLC, so you can, be all official and be recognized as a legal business entity. You can invest in equipment, so that way when you present yourself to potential clients, they know you're serious because they can see the physical investment you have made in your own gear. You can also rent that gear out, sometimes even rent yourself with your gear out, depending on how much of a hotbed of an area of production you live in. There are some cities that there's just stuff constantly going on. There's not enough equipment or not enough crew to go around. So you can insert yourself right into that immediately and start to just build a reputation of being a hard worker, a knowledgeable worker. And if there's not a lot of certain pieces of gear, especially cameras in your area, you can become very, very popular because you're the one who has this really nice camera that a lot of people don't want to pay to own, but they're willing to pay you to rent it from you. And you can attach yourself as a camera operator that goes along with the gear. So that's another way you can invest. But also what you can just do, as I was alluding to, is you can just start jumping in on productions. Now, you're probably going to have to be willing to volunteer on some sets for free to start, depending on the size of the production. Again, it depends on your area. If your area is kind of there's not a lot of commercial work or film work going on, then it's going to probably have to be volunteer just to gain some experience and also to be able to start networking with the crew that are on those shoots. If you're in a more of a hotbed of activity, then you are going to probably be able to get paid. Not a lot, but at least get paid for your gas, possibly for your food, and if you're fortunate, for your time, which is great. I'm not saying those jobs don't exist, but I'm advising you don't go in with that assumption, because nothing turns a producer off more when they're looking to hire crew than to have a 19, 20-year-old come in and say, how much is the job pay? I'm worth this much and I'm gonna expect to be able to do this. Your resume is gonna go out the window so fast, because as a producer myself, one of the things that we always are under the gun for is production time and production budget. And anything that slows down or financially hinders the project, we don't have time for. And that includes know-it-all crew members who are going to be problems during the filming. We just move on. So if you're going to just start to insert yourself onto sets, go in there with a humble attitude, with a, what can I do to help? How can I serve this production? And whatever you're asked to do it with a smile and do it to the very best of your ability, because I can promise you the leaders remember that. So that's one of the things that, if you're not going to go to film school, is a great thing, is to invest any financial opportunity in yourself. Invest in gear, invest in you, and volunteer to get out on sets to start to build your network and to start to build your reputation as just a hard worker. Now, I know a big thing people are going to say probably in the comment section is, Well, why can't I just learn from YouTube or Skillshare? There's dozens of other sites out there that have online courses that I can take in a week and pay maybe a couple $100 and then I'm done. Those programs are great. I'm not going to crap on them and say that they aren't going to do the job. They'll get you to a certain level. Absolutely. They'll install in you some of the best knowledge out there. And YouTube is a great resource for learning new things, learning the breakdown of a new camera, how to build, how to do different camera builds, what the newest lighting and audio equipment is. But not a lot of them are going to teach you how to relationship and network build. So if that's your only go-to, I would just caution you. Those sources of education are great for specific jobs. But again, it kind of all depends on where you're wanting to go. And I think that's what I keep coming back to is it all depends on where you feel like God has called you. Are you called to be a producer, a director, a writer, a visual effects artist, a sound recordist, maybe a composer? Each job field kind of has a different unofficial path to it. And it's definitely not going to go in a straight line, to be sure. So, YouTube is a great resource. So I would just encourage you to check out the resources that are out there for free or just for a few $100s. And maybe instead of you going to film school, you maybe take that few $100s that you were going to spend on tuition books. Maybe you buy a few of those programs, and that would be investing in yourself. That's another great example of investing in yourself and making your education more specific and tailored to what you want to accomplish. What I hope you take away from this video is that there is no right way. Everyone's asking, well, how can I achieve success in the film industry or in the media creation space? Even how do I achieve YouTube's success? And like I said, there's plenty of channels out there that will say, do this, do that. If you do it this way, if you follow my 30, my 60, my 6-month course, I'm going to get you there. And I would say they may be right, but they could also be wrong. It kind of depends on how much money and time you're willing to put into each one of these things. But ultimately, it's going to be on you. It's going to all come down to you, what you're willing to put your time and your money and energy into. And whether that's film school, online learning, or just jumping headfirst into it and going right out on set and you sink or swim, that's going to all come down to you. Only you can decide what works best for you. And like I said, there is no right way. If there was a right way, like how do you become a doctor? How do you become a lawyer? Everyone would be doing it. And that's the nice thing about being a doctor or lawyer is it's a very well-defined path. Not so in the entertainment space. It's all twists and turns and sometimes you get thrown for a literal loop and then you got to start all over again. Don't believe me? Well, let me give you 2 examples. There's creator of Star Wars, George Lucas, and there's the film director that all of us know and would love to just achieve just a fraction of success, and that's Steven Spielberg. Best friends, got to where they are 2 different ways. So George Lucas, he takes the very traditional route. He ends up finding his creative storytelling passion, goes to USC Film School, it goes the full years, and then he graduates, and then he creates his own production company after he interns with Francis Ford Coppola's company for a while, and he produces a few of George's films, and then George is constantly just working on this idea of a science fiction operatic series, and he just pitches it, and eventually, after he makes a small car film called American Graffiti, he gets to make Star Wars, and then the rest is history. Spielberg goes a very unconventional route. He's like many of you. Played with his dad's video camera at home, did his own little movies when he was a kid, and with his buddies, making war films, blowing up his friends, using whatever he could get his hands on in order to tell his stories. And he even made a semi-autobiographical film out of it, if you want to check that out. He realizes very early on that film school is not necessarily for him. So he loves movies. So how does he do it? He does something that could never be done today, but he actually goes on a tour of a film studio. And while the tour is happening, he actually sneaks away from the tour and goes into the business offices of the studio. And so far, no one stops him. He finds an empty cubicle, makes a nameplate for himself, and then for the next few weeks, he actually goes to work at the studio, wears a suit and tie. It just acts like he belongs here, like he already is an employee. And while he's there, he goes to the different sets. He asks questions from crew members. What's this about? How do you do this? What's it like on this set? How's this director? And he observes from the shadows until eventually he gets caught. And that's a whole other thing. But ultimately, he gets hired by that studio and is given an opportunity to create his own film. But he first had to take a very risky chance in trusting himself and also to ask questions of the professionals. One very traditional path, one very not traditional path. Both ended up achieving their own places in cinematic history as two great filmmakers. So, not saying their path is your path. It's somewhere in the middle. It's somewhere in its own version. So, when you're considering film school, take an honest look at what they have to offer, but also what you're looking to achieve in your filmmaking journey. And I think if you do that and you are honest with yourself and you let God guide you about where He wants you to be, you're going to find the next step for you in your filmmaking career. So until next time, keep the faith and keep on filmmaking.